All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are literally stepping into the ring for what is essentially a high-stakes, 800-year-old intellectual boxing match. We're looking at two of the most brilliant minds of the medieval world, locked in this massive, cross-generational debate that totally shaped the course of human thought. It's reason versus revelation. And look, this isn't just some polite exchange of philosophical musings over tea. We're talking about a full-scale battle over the limits of human reason, the validity of science, and the very nature of the universe itself.
Okay, let's dive into this must faith and science clash. It's a question we still argue about today, right? I mean, you see it all the time. But 8 centuries ago, this tension between scientific inquiry and religious belief reached an absolute boiling point. The core question was, can we actually trust our logical minds to understand the cosmos? Or does ultimate truth require us to admit the limits of our own intellect? That's the central tension we're exploring today.
Section 1. The Great Intellectual Clash. Al-Ghazali versus Averroes. Playing the role of the impartial referee here, let me present the tale of the tape. In one corner, we have Al-Ghazali. He was this 11th century academic superstar from Persia who, incredibly, just abandoned his prestigious post to become a wandering mystic. He basically came to the conclusion that, sure, human reason is totally fine for basic math, but it completely fails us when trying to explain the ultimate nature of God. Then, in the other corner, living about 80 years later over in Islamic Spain, we have Averroes. This guy was a true polymath, a royal judge, and a physician. Averroes was deeply, deeply committed to the idea that the universe is rational, that it's governed by discoverable laws, and that our minds are quite literally designed to seek truth through logical deduction. So the inciting incident for this whole intellectual war happened when Al-Ghazali wrote this totally scathing book called The Incoherence of the Philosophers. He went through 20 specific philosophical claims and just attacked them as completely illogical. Well, roughly 80 years later, Averroes reads this and decides, he has to rescue philosophy. So he sits down and writes a direct, line-by-line rebuttal with a brilliant, slightly sassy title, The Incoherence of the Incoherence. Essentially, Averroes was looking right at Al-Ghazali's work and saying, hey, your argument that we are incoherent is actually, incoherent.
Moving to Section 2, the 3 heretical strikes, accusations of unbelief. All right, strike 1 is all about the universe's birthday. Al-Ghazali argued that the universe was created at a very specific moment in time out of absolutely nothing. He believed God has this completely free, uncaused will and just simply chose to start the universe. But Averroes countered this by asking, well, what does before the universe even mean, since time is really just a measurement of motion? So the crucial point in Averroes' logic is this. If God is eternal and his will is eternal, then the effect of that will, the universe, must also be eternally created. In his view, God didn't just kickstart time like knocking over a domino and then walk away. He is continuously keeping the whole thing running. Strike 2 asks a pretty massive question. How exactly does God know things? Al-Ghazali insisted that God must know every single changing detail directly, like the specific moment you are watching this explainer right now, because otherwise God would be ignorant of our daily lives, right? But Averroes countered this beautifully. He argued that if God's knowledge changes every time a leaf falls to the ground, then God is suddenly subject to time and change. Averroes presented this really fascinating alternative. Think about it. Humans learn by observing things passively, but God's knowledge is the active cause of things. God isn't just passively sitting there watching a movie of the universe. His knowledge is the very reason the movie is playing in the first place.
And this builds right into their final major conflict. Strike 3, the afterlife. Al-Ghazali passionately defended the literal physical resurrection of the body. To him, denying that meant rejecting scripture entirely, no middle ground. Averroes, though, maintaining his very analytical, impartial approach, offered a much more nuanced view. He definitely didn't deny the afterlife, but he suggested that the physical descriptions we read in scripture, gardens or physical fires, are actually beautiful, absolutely necessary metaphors. They are designed to help ordinary people understand these profound spiritual realities of joy and justice that a purely philosophical explanation just wouldn't capture.
Section 3. Fire, Cotton, and Science. The Laws of Nature. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of occasionalism. Al-Ghazali presented this incredibly radical idea. He asked a simple question. When fire touches cotton, does the fire actually cause the burn? And his answer was no. The fire has no mind, it has no real power. According to Al-Ghazali, God is the only true agent.
and he directly creates the burning in the cotton at that exact, precise moment. We just see it happen so often that we mistake this divine habit for a so-called law of nature.
Averroes, as you might guess, completely rejected this. He fiercely defended the scientific reality of inherent natural properties. He basically argued, look, if we deny that things have stable properties, if fire doesn't naturally burn or water doesn't naturally hydrate, we are completely destroying the entire foundation of human knowledge. I mean, if cause and effect isn't real, then medicine, physics, and science literally become entirely pointless. For Averroes, God designed a universe that operates on rational, predictable laws. And studying those laws, that is exactly how we honor that design.
Section 4. 3 paths, 1 truth. Harmony of reason and faith.
Averroes' entire mission is basically summed up in this famous, beautiful quote: "Truth does not contradict truth." He absolutely positively did not believe in a double truth. You know, the idea that something could somehow be true in science, but false in religion. To him, there is only one ultimate reality. If there appears to be a contradiction between a human scientific discovery and scripture, well, it simply means we are reading the scripture a bit too literally, and it requires metaphorical interpretation.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how Averroes categorized human understanding. He realized, hey, our minds process information differently. First, you have the poetic path. This is for everyone. It uses stories, metaphors, and emotions to grasp the truth. Second, there's the dialectical path. This is for the theologians who use logical debates to defend their specific doctrines. And third, the demonstrative path. This is for the philosophers and the scientists who require strict, step-by-step scientific proofs. It's the exact same truth, just 3 different ways of accessing it, depending entirely on how your brain works.
Section 5. Why it still matters. Relevance today.
So let's summarize the key takeaways from this epic clash. First up, Averroes teaches us that the conflict between science and religion might just be an illusion. Discovering the laws of physics or biology really shouldn't threaten belief. Rather, it should reveal the intricate order of the universe. Second, we see the absolute power of critical thinking here, never being afraid to ask the hard questions or deeply engage with an opposing viewpoint. But third, Al-Ghazali serves as its vital, grounding counterweight. He reminds us of the limits of human reason. Our brains are incredible, no doubt, but we've got to remain humble enough to admit that some mysteries of existence might just always remain beyond our full comprehension.
We are going to leave you with this final provocative thought. How do you balance reason and your own core beliefs? These 2 intellectual giants pushed each other to be sharper, to go deeper, showing us that the true search for truth requires both rigorous logic and profound reflection. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep asking the big questions.
Please like and subscribe.